Hey guys, I'm Andrew Burnett, and you're listening to Candid Conversations with Andrew Burnett right here on bikertv.org and Tobago Inspirational Christian Network. I'm here with my good buddy Keith Bilbrey. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. The weather's cooled off and the rain stopped here in Nashville, so things are looking up.
Well, how's things going for you during this quarantine and time of relaxation, is what I call it, because everything's at a standstill.
I have been very blessed. I have not missed a show on Larry's Country Diner or the Huckabee Show. Now we've done some shows like we're doing today on Zoom, which was rather interesting. With Huckabee, I was where I am now at my home. Trey Corley was in the studio in Hendersonville, and Mike was at his home down in Florida. The same with Larry's Country Diner. We were all at different places, and we zoomed the thing in. Looked like an old Brady Bunch show, but we got through it and got some music on. But the neat thing is I haven't missed a show, and not going out as much as I used to. But right now things are going well.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into radio broadcasting and announcing and how that came about for you.
Well, I got a feeling you and I have a lot in common. I decided, oh gosh, I don't know. I was like 10, 9, 10 years old that I wanted to be on the radio. And that was just my dream. That's all I thought about. There were no second choices. I was going to be a broadcaster. And back then they sold a little set, I think it was called Mattel Remco, and I got it for Christmas. And you could actually broadcast over the AM dial, very, very low power. But that was my first radio station. And then when I was, I worried the heck out of the people at the local radio station in Cookeville, WHUB. I wanted to hang around. I would go in the evening when they played rock and roll music and take requests, anything to be in the radio station. And finally, when I was 15, I made an audition tape, and they were going to hire me. And we were sitting there talking about what hours I was going to work and all this stuff. And suddenly the manager says, "Oh, Keith, you're 15. Child labor laws won't let you work the hours I want you to work." I was furious. And I ran up to see my uncle, who was an attorney. I said, "Isn't there something we can do about this, Uncle Keith?" He said, "No, that's a federal law. There's nothing we can do. You're going to have to wait till you're 16. So finally, when I turned 16, I got a job at the radio station, and it's been nonstop ever since.
So in 2015, I was doing a little bit of research about you. I see that you got inducted into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
Oh man, that was truly an honor. Sometimes it's not that you're that good, you just outlast a lot of people. But it was an honor. Like I say, this has been my dream since I was a young man, and to be honored by my contemporaries in that manner, and join a league of what I consider giants in the radio industry was a real thrill, and I'm very thankful and very proud of that designation.
So where did it all begin for you, and how did you come to meet Larry's Country Diner? How did that come along?
Well, I was working at WSM, and Larry Black was hired for the morning show. He and Liz White, and they called it the Black and White Show on mornings, and that's how Larry and I got to know each other. Uh, on down the line, many years, he had left the station, and we kind of kept in touch loosely. And he called me one day and said, "Keith, I'm starting a new show, and I want you to be my announcer sidekick." I said, "Whatever you say, buddy." And it started, and we thought we'd run a couple of seasons, and it was many moons ago. But that's how all that happened. It was just he just had this crazy idea that he wanted to do this show set in a diner somewhere near Nashville, and the stars stopped by to have a cup of coffee and sing a song or two, and that's how it developed.
That is so cool. And one of the funniest things on the show is Nadine when she comes out on
Oh,
the show. Tell us a little bit about the funniest moments for you on that show.
well, Nadine is just she's a force unto herself. Nadine's real name is Mona Brown. Her husband's an eye doctor. It's not really Homer, but they put this act together, and it's she had not done this professionally at all. She had done some comedy skits in her church, and that's where Larry saw her. She was doing this character in church gatherings just to entertain folks, and he said, I'm doing this show, and I think Nadine, the church lady, stopping in during the show and telling off a few folks would be funny, and it did. And she has just grown into that character so well. And it's funny because we'll be out in Branson, or we'll be on a Larry's Country Diner cruise. You don't know how many times this has happened. I'm sitting at the table with her and her husband, me and my wife, and somebody will come over and say something to me, and they say, "Where's Nadine? We haven't seen her on the cruise except on stage." I said, "You're closer to Nadine than you think." And she's, of course, sitting right across the table from me. And when they realize that's who that is, then they recognize her without the outfit. But she can slip right through a crowd, and you'll never know it's Nadine until she puts the wig and the makeup on.
So, one of the most memorable experiences for you was probably getting to meet the legendary Jimmy Capps. And you had the honor of doing the eulogy at his service. Tell us a little bit about that and your friendship and how y'all got to meet each other.
Well, of course, when I started at the Opry back in 1982 as an announcer, Jimmy was there, and with the Opry staff band, and I just loved those guys. They were all just great, down to earth people. As you say, the word legendary never occurred to them. It occurred to the rest of us, and certainly Jimmy. Jimmy was even hesitant to write a book about his life because he didn't want anybody to think he was bragging. But down through the years, Jimmy and I became really good friends. I had two boys, and they both wanted guitars, and Jimmy helped me get a deal on a couple of guitars for them. That way I could actually afford a better guitar for them to learn on than I could. And Jimmy and that whole group, man, they were just family, and remain to this day. We're losing so many of them, and of course, Jimmy passing was a big shock, and uh, just a great guy, and you would never know how great he was if you didn't study his career, because he certainly wouldn't tell you. But he worked with just everybody you could think of. My favorite stories about Jimmy were back when he was a teenager, and he traveled with the Louvin brothers, and he was their guitarist. And man, he could tell you some Louvin brothers stories. The Louvin brothers were kind of known for not getting along too well, as many brothers are. And Jimmy was caught in the middle of all that, and it's pretty funny stuff. But he had so many stories about people that he was the man in back, and that's the name of his book, and that's very appropriate, because he was the man in back for a whole lot of folks.
I have a lot of parents that watch this show, and this is going to be a little personal for you, but I had an aunt that lost a child at the
Yeah.
age of 12, and
Mm.
I did a little bit of research on you and found out that you lost your son in 2018 due to a weather related accident. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was a car accident. He was coming home. It was late at night, and the rain was just really heavy, and he got into some deeper water than he anticipated, and that's what happened. It was a very sad thing. He was just on the verge of being 40. I'd teased him at his birthday and said, "Whoa, next year you're an old man." And boy, I wish he could have turned 40. But he was a musician. He was a poet. He taught at the University of Georgia and the University of Wisconsin, and he loved poetry. He loved getting together with songwriters. He and John Hartford were really good friends, and he would send some of his stuff over to John for him to critique it, and John would send him his stuff, and he had a real relationship with a lot of the folks at the opera. He and Minnie Pearl were big buddies. I was doing Nashville Now one night, and I never will forget. I went by one of the offices, and Mark was in there. He fell at the time, probably, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. And he and Minnie were deep into some kind of discussion. And I went by, and she came up to me later. She said, "I love your son." Said, "We had the best talk." to this day, I don't know what they were talking about, but they were deep in conversation. But he was a wonderful kid.
So, what was a thread of hope that you held on to during that time of grief? And when, words can't always express the hurt that you go through. So, what was that thread of hope that you held on to?
Well, it was Jesus Christ, no doubt about it. I knew that I would see Mark again, and I hold on to that hope and that belief and that faith. And the wonderful thing that happened during all that, and I look back now, it was such a blessing. There were several people that I was around that had lost children, and nobody knows the pain like somebody who's been through it. And those folks gathered around me and held on to me. Uh, Larry Black, and well, Larry hasn't lost a child, but a couple of the Renee and her husband have lost a child, and they were. I was just surrounded by people who knew the pain and stood by me. Mike Huckabee was wonderful. We had taped a show on Tuesday night because the following weekend he had a full lineup of dates around the country. And this happened on Wednesday morning. He called me Thursday and he says, Keith, I've canceled everything. I'll be there for visitation and the funeral. And he was. He sat with Garth Brooks. It was just such an outpouring of love. Then Mike called me right after that because Thanksgiving was coming up. And he said, look, I'm taking the kids to Disney World. He has this beautiful house down on Santa Rosa Beach. He said, I want you and Emmy Joe to come down here and get your feet in the sand and spend Thanksgiving. And the house, you'll have it to yourself. Oh, man, what a blessing, and that sort of thing. And I've been now counseling with people who are going through the same thing I went through. Had a call just the other day from a man who lost a child in a car accident, and we had a good talk. We're going to get together for a cup of coffee here pretty soon. So God works in mysterious ways. And then when you look back, it's not so mysterious after all. It was supposed to happen that way.
So if people tune in on Friday nights on TBN, they will find a special announcer in Nashville, Tennessee that speaks for the Huckabee show. I wonder who that would be.
Well, actually, it's on Saturday and Sunday. We usually tape on Friday. We're taping this Friday night, as a matter of fact. That would be me. That was funny how that came about. Mike was twice governor of California, and then he was a presidential candidate. And it was funny because my wife and I were doing a cooking show that never quite got off the ground, but we did get on the air. And David Stallings, a friend of mine from Texas, was doing it. And he and Mike Huckabee were friends. They were both from the Arkansas area. And he wanted Mike to be a guest on our show. Well, Mike said, sure. I didn't know Mike Huckabee other than just what I'd seen in the news. And he came and did our cooking show. And he and I were like instant friends. You've probably had those relationships. And we kept up with each other through the years. And then he and I both spoke at George Jones' funeral, and then his memorial service that they had later on. And we just became really good friends. He was from Hope, Arkansas. I was from Cookeville, Tennessee. We both started radio when we were just teenagers. So we're two old radio guys. It was funny because I was telling him the story about how I had the job at 15, but they couldn't hire me because of child labor law. I said, wait a minute. You started when you were 14. How did that work out? Oh, I forgot. You're from Arkansas. They don't have laws in Arkansas. He laughed and he said, yeah, they kind of wrote me off at the radio station as a farm hand so I could work the hours I needed to work.
Wow.
But the similarities, again, you just know that God put these people in your life. And that all started with a phone call. I was surprised to hear from him. He said, hey, Keith, I'm doing a new show. This was after he'd had the show on Fox, and then he quit that and ran for president. This was after the presidential bid, and TBN came to him and proposed a show. And he said, one of the first things I told him, if Keith Bilbrey can be my announcer. And I appreciate that. And we just have a chemistry there. And we identify with each other. I'm a little bit older than he is, but he and I have been in this business, equal number of years. And it was funny because he grew up in Hope, and he told me, he said, Hope was, not to get into politics, but just for example, he said Hope at that time was hugely Democratic. And he said, the only Republican in town owned the radio station. And I went to work for him. Guess what? In Cookeville, it was largely Democrat territory. The only guy who owned the radio station was a Republican. I mean, the similarities are just uncanny.
So we could basically call them radio Republicans then.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
So most memorable guest for you on Huckabee, who would you say that would be?
Oh, gosh, that's a tough question. Uh, I was thrilled to death last week when Pat Boone was on. I've known Pat for a lot of years, and some of these people we just keep running into. And Pat's one of those people. I met him early on in my career. I remember we worked the Easter Seals Telethon every year. It was a national thing, but we did the local thing. And of course, Pat being from Nashville, he was kind of partial to the Nashville folks. And we would get together in Las Vegas every year for the convention. And I remember one year we were out there, and we ended up on the same elevator going down to a meeting, and we got to our floor, and we were walking. We, of course, in Las Vegas, you have to go through the casino to get anywhere, and we are walking through the casino to go to this meeting, talking, and it suddenly hit me: I am walking through the Desert Inn Casino with Pat Boone. It was just like, whoa. And just one of those strange things. Of course, he didn't stop at any of the machines, and I didn't either until later on, but that's another story.
Did you win anything? No, that's the part we all want to know.
No, I'm a small time gambler. I just like to see the lights flash and hear the bells go off.
Well, Keith, it has been an honor having you on. Tell us a little bit more about how we can find you on Huckabee or Larry's Country Diner, or where we can tune in at.
Well, Larry, of course, is on RFD TV, and that's every Thursday, and then again Saturday night. And then Huckabee is on the weekends at 7 Central, 8. You know me in time zones. I get confused. 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Saturday night, and then 10 and 9. And then on Sunday night, I have no idea. Look at your listings. But, all those years I worked on the Opry, I was there 34 years, and I came in at such a great time. And I just want to mention that I was so, again, blessed because I was there during the days of Roy Acuff and Bill Monroe and Grandpa Jones and Ernest Tubb, and all those folks were heroes of mine. And I can never express what it meant to just hang around with those folks and sit in the dressing room or sit on the bus, and that they accepted me. And it's been a wonderful career, and I can't believe it's still going. I'm old enough to retire now, but why should you retire from something you're loving to do? So,
you was talking about that, and that brought up another question to me. What country artist that has passed on left the most impact on your life?
Oh, I'd have to say Ernest Tubb, without a doubt. I was a kid when I started doing the Midnight Jamboree. Ernest took me under his wing, and you learned a lot just being around Ernest Tubb. To give you a modern example, and I've told Garth this, I said, Garth, you remind me so much of Ernest Tubb. If you want to get in trouble with Ernest, the quickest way to do it was insult a fan or turn down a picture or turn down an autograph. He'd tell you those people pay your salary and you need to be nice to them. And he was a bright spot, yet he never hogged the stage. He wanted, if you were on his show, you were somebody special, and he treated you that way. I don't care if you had a hit record or you'd never seen the inside of a recording studio. I came to him as this young kid announcer from WSM, and you'd thought I was Grant Turner. I mean, he treated me with the same dignity and respect that he would Harold or Grant or any of the legendary announcers that had gone on before me. And boy, that makes an impression on you. I was sitting on the bus with him one night, he and his sister, Aunt Blondie, and we were sitting there talking, and it was before a show, and these ladies came to the door and wanted a picture with Ernest. Ernest was sitting there, didn't have his hat on. Well, he said, tell him just a minute. He goes to the back of the bus, gets his hat, goes out there, makes a picture. It's a cold, drizzly night. And he came back in. I said, Ernest, that's awfully nice of you to do that. He said, well, there again, those people pay my salary and I owe them that. And I said, and you went back to get your hat. He said, well, people don't recognize me if I don't have my hat on. When they want a picture with Ernest Tubb, they want Ernest Tubb with the hat and everything. And he said, I can go out here and walk in the mall. Nobody knows. I'm just another old man walking the mall. Now, if I put that hat on, I'd be Ernest Tubb. But I just those kind of lessons you learn from being around such a legend. Roy Acuff was the same way, and just so many of the great ones. And I see Garth in those footsteps. I've seen him stand and sign autographs long after the show, long after other artists would be long gone. Garth's out there in the parking lot signing autographs. I also got to see that with James Taylor. James is that way. He'll do his show. He'll sign autographs backstage. And then if somebody stops him in the parking lot on the way to the bus, he'll stop them. And next thing you know, there's a line out in the parking lot and he'll stand there and sign to the last one. I think it's a real lesson for folks in this business, not to forget where you came from and who supports you.
Well, thank you so much, Keith, for coming on with us. God bless you. And we're going to have you on again sometime to talk some more about country legends.
Let's do it. I'm for it. And good luck with your show, man.
Thank you so much.
We need folks like you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
You have a good day.